Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the No Name Music Cast. My name's Tim, and this is
Joy.
And here at the very top of the show, Joy and I were just speaking before the episode, and she said I could go straight into my thing. So I'm going to go into a couple of items just at the very beginning of the show. Now, the first thing I'm going to say, or speak about, should I say, I mean, this is obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. Isn't Random Access Memories by Daft Punk such a good album?
It's a very good album, and it is my favorite Daft Punk. There's this scene, Tim, and every time I see it on Family Guy, I think of you. So there's this scene where for some reason Daft Punk is playing, and for some reason Peter keeps going, this is Billy Joel's moving out Anthony's story or whatever it is, you know what I'm talking about? And he's like, and then the other character's going, no, this is Daft Punk all around the world. And Peter's arguing it with him. And he goes, I swear to God, I'm going to hit you with this beer mug. And I don't know why, because that's literally me and Charlie when he's trying to guess the name of songs. So every time I think of Daft Punk, that's what I think of. Anyway, so what about the album?
Well, I was just listening to it today on the way home, and it's such a good album. Everything about it is great, and it's like a contemporary chic album is what it is, because it's got Nile Rodgers all over it. But all those songs are just so good. And I mean, it must be 10, 11 years old at this point, but listeners, if you have not listened to Random Access Memories by Daft Punk, listen to it right now. Pause this recording, pause this podcast, and listen to the whole thing in its entirety, because it is so good.
What do you feel like is your favorite song on said album, Tim?
There's several I really like. I do like Giorgio by Moroder, where it's got Giorgio Moroder, who is a famed music producer and songwriter, yet they didn't use him for anything like that. They just interviewed him.
Giovanni Giorgio, or whatever his last name is.
Yeah, Giovanni Giorgio. You can just call me Giorgio.
Yes. I really like Instant Crash. I think that's probably one of my favorite songs on there. And I don't know about Julian, whatever his name is, but I know
Julian Casablancas from the band The Strokes, but it doesn't sound anything like the music that he does with The Strokes. No, and there's a vocoder on his voice as well.
Yes. And of course, I like Get Lucky, which was the single everybody knows. But I will say Instant Crush is a favorite of mine that makes it onto my playlist occasionally.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's not really a bad track on it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I also like Lose Yourself to Dance. That is a really good track.
That's like a fun one that like you just want to like listen to music and zone out.
Yeah, and I also like Touch, which has Paul Williams, who is a famed songwriter. He wrote songs for the Carpenters. He wrote the theme tune to The Love Boat. But the thing is, I know him as Little Enos Burdett from Smokey and the Bandit.
I knew that's where you were going with it. He's probably like, really, Tim? That's what you know me from after all this time?
Well, I mean, I grew up watching Smokey and the Bandit, and I just remember Big and Little Enos. And Little Enos is Paul Williams, who appears on a Daft Punk album. It's absolutely fantastic.
Of course, you know, he listened to this podcast, so he heard everything Tim just said.
Paul always tunes in every week. I've got good understanding.
I'm assuming he's alive, right, Tim? I don't
know. He's in his later years, but he's still with us, luckily.
Sometimes I feel like, so when we recorded the Saturday Night Live episode, Saturday Night Fever, everybody. My mom was like, you do know, like, this person is dead. Like, we were talking about the Gibbs brothers, and I was like, yes, me and Tim are aware. She just wanted to clarify. Because sometimes I feel like we talk about people like they're right now. That's just me and Tim being very literal.
Well, I mean, you know, even if the people aren't with us on Earth, their art is still with us. So they are with us in a way, because, you know, you're probably not going to be bumping into the Bee Gees, even if they were still alive. So you're still embracing their art and still embracing the things that they did.
Good cover, Tim. But he's right. I mean, it's hard to talk about stuff and not think of it in the moment, even if it's not in the moment what you're talking about on a podcast, right?
Sure.
And of course, modern day music to me and Tim is a whole different thing. There was one episode where we talked about a song that came out in like 1783. So take it with a grain of salt. Anyway, what's next on your list, Tim?
Okay, well, sadly, we had to say goodbye to another musician this week. We lost Steve Harley the
Yeah.
frontman from Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. Sadly, he was 73, and he was probably most famous for the song "Make Me Smile." I mean, I would assume you would know that song.
That's pretty much that song. And then I knew like Mr. Soft.
Yeah,
I've heard
Mr.
that
Soft.
before.
Yeah, Mr. Soft is another song. My friend Mark Chudley is a big fan of Steve Harley, and I'm sure he was probably very sad to hear that we lost Steve Harley this week. I mean, he's one of these artists I think had a pretty large fan base, but for most people, they would know Make Me Smile.
Yeah, and I mean he was very like Cockney from what I understand. So I don't know that he always transcended into American music, but I've definitely heard of him.
Yeah. So anyhow, we salute you, sir. We say rock in peace to you, sir, and we will remember your music.
I like saluted, like people can see what I'm doing, and this isn't an audio podcast. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, I said we used to do videos, like little clips of our episodes, and I used to put them on YouTube, and they didn't really get a lot of traction, and there's a lot of aggravation. So I decided just to focus on the audio side of the proceedings.
I will say though, because my TikTok, I have almost 1,000 followers on TikTok now, Tip. If we don't get TikTok banned and it lives in America, we may need to do some clips on there.
There we are. I will let you take care of the TikTok side of the operation because I'm around 40 years too old for TikTok, in my opinion.
It's fair, but I will do that because I've gotten a little bit of a following on the TikToks for any of our listeners who would like to join.
Well, there we are. If you're at age 15 and under, please join Joy on the TikToks.
Yes, because I'm obviously 12. Anyway, moving along.
Moving along. Well, I understand that Joy has got something for us, and then we're going to get on to Joy's topic.
So I just saw this and I thought it was cute. Recently, Billy Joel did his final little, his concert that me and Tim talked about that you had to sell a kidney to go to. And he thought it was interesting instead of taking his tour bus or limo or whatever, he rode the Long Island Trail, like the actual, the railroad, like the train into town to do his Madison Square Garden final little episode. Episode is not an episode, concert. He said, I used to take a helicopter, but I thought it would be fun to take the Long Island Railroad, which is his preferred commute to and from now, he says. And he thought it was nice because it was his final show to be hand in hand with all the people that he knows in New York.
Well, that's kind of cool. I mean, there's a story about Bon Scott playing the Hammersmith Odeon where he went on the bus.
There's a few people I've seen do this. I mean, it's not a new thing. There was one where I saw Beyonce and I think Mariah Carey one time when she was doing like a New Year's Eve thing rode. But he said that his people, and I'm assuming like his bodyguards, were not particularly excited about this and they were worried the entire time. But, he said like, because I thought this was funny because no offense to Billy Joel, but he's not exactly modern anymore. He said everybody kept saying, hey, that guy looks like Billy Joel, but no one really thought it was him.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't know. I mean, there are some people who'd be very identifiable. If you saw Brian May on a train, you know what he looks like and he's got long white hair. Who else could it be? It could be absolutely no one else. But if you saw Billy Joel, a Rod Stewart, I don't know, anyone.
I don't know. Rod Stewart's supposed to be really tiny, Tip. Like he's short, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, if you saw someone on a train and they're not, as you say, camera ready, they haven't done their hair, maybe wouldn't have makeup like they would maybe wear on stage, and they're maybe wearing a hat. I mean, you could say, oh, look, that dude looks a bit like Roger Stewart.
Taylor, I would recognize. I would not recognize Roger Taylor. He would just like every white guy ever in his age group.
Well, he's now tattooed, and he's got a tattoo that runs onto his finger, so I'd know.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. He just looks like every white 70-year-old British man to me. It's the truth, though. But Billy Joel, what? Looks like every kind of New Yorker with a little bit of a tan and a bald head. Like you might not, you might be like, hey, that guy looks like Billy Joel, but you wouldn't actually think it was Billy Joel.
There we are. Well, I'm glad he got to have that experience. Is that the very last of his concerts?
Yeah.
And is he retiring from touring from here in?
Supposedly, but I have a feeling he'll be one of those until the money starts appearing, Tim. Like, I swear to you, Elton John got me during this last because I went and saw him. Tim knows this. We talked about it on the podcast, and it was like, I'm never gonna be, perform again. Blah 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 blah. So I am on Snapchats, even though because I'm 12 years old, but I am on the Snapchats, and I swear to you, I have looked at that O2 Arena on the map, the one in the UK, like 7 times, and Elton John is there every other week. So he lied. It was not his final concert.
Well, I mean, it's local to him. He lives in Windsor. I mean, Windsor to the Docklands. I mean, it's not a great commute, but it's not terrible far.
He was like, bye, America, but I may still show up in the UK occasionally.
Well, no, he's just sitting around the house with David, and they're bored, and David's probably fed up with him being around all the time. So it's like, go out and go and play some gigs, for goodness sake.
That's probably what's happening. But I mean, the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road tour was fantastic. I would not trade it for the world. But he made a big deal about how, the LA Dodgers and everything. He was going back to that. That was his final tour. And I keep seeing him tour again. I was like, I feel like I've been lied to. But I mean, dollar signs are dollar signs,
There we go.
All right. Well, with that was where I'm going to leave it. I have a very interesting topic that I don't know what Tim is going to name this episode. But what I did was I pulled the Billboard Hot 100 singles from like 1960 and 1965, 1970 and 1975, and so on, every 5 years for me and Tim to discuss. And I will be generally curious to see, because I did it all the way up until the modern day times, which one Tim's knows and which one I knows. Because I knows. Knows is a word, Joy. Yes, I know. I don't know the first one. I'm going to tell you the truth. I know the second song, but I don't know this. And I find it very interesting because me and Tim have talked about there was this kind of point in history during the 60s and 70s where theme songs were very popular as modern day music, right, Tim? So this is the theme from A Summer Place. And this is 1960 was the #1 song, Hot 100 for 1960. Are you familiar with the show, A Summer Place, or Percy Faith, who is the singer?
No, I'm not aware of any of that stuff. I mean, my knowledge of especially US TV shows probably is mid to late 70s onwards, but certainly 60s US TV shows, no. But you're right. There was a very rich heritage of theme tunes to films and theme tunes, especially to TV shows, charting as singles.
So the only thing I know about this is I remember vaguely something about my mom talking about it. And I have a theme from A Summer Place is used a little bit in Grease, the movie, because the woman or the main character or the female, I don't know how old she is in the show, her name is Sandra Dee. And that's, look at me, I'm Sandra Dee. That's the Grease song. That's the only thing I know from this. But apparently, it's kind of weird to me that of all the #1 song of all of 1960 is a theme from A Summer Place, and I have zero recognition of what that is.
No,
isn't that strange?
Yeah, maybe we need to look that up and see what that's all about.
Well, to be fair, though, it doesn't get any better when I look down the list. #2 is He'll Have to Go. #3 is Kathy's Clown. And #4 is Running Bear. Literally none of those.
I know the theme tune to Kathy's Clown, and I also know Running Bear. Running Bear. Running by door.
I'll take your word for it. I do know what 5 is. 5 is Teenage Angel. I do know Teenage Angel, Mark Denny. I know that song, but that's it. It's weird to me, Tim, because I kind of I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm like that person that is like, I know music. And then I hear this and I'm like, what the heck is Running Bear?
I know that song. It's a quirky 60s song.
Well, apparently Tim knows that one. All right, so we're going to go into 1965, and I do know this song very well. The #1 song of 1965 was Wooly Bully.
Wooly Bully.
I find it funny that is the song of 1965, because the name of the band is Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, which they used to wear like pharaoh costumes. Have you ever seen them, Tim? Which I don't know why, but it is done in a 12-bar blues progression, which is really interesting to hear. And it's one of those songs that I feel like is almost comical at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it is a quirky comedy novelty hit, really. Um, but
Yeah.
it was a time of innocence. I mean, these days there's people are singing and talking about all kinds of stuff. It's terrible, really. But like back then, how innocent it was.
I mean, to be fair, and like, what's a woolly bully? I don't know if we'll ever know. But I find it kind of interesting. Did you know it beat out Help Me Rhonda by the Beach Boys and Back in My Arms Again by the Supremes? I don't know.
Hmm.
I would have found Woolly Bully. And to be fair, I feel like they're one hit wonders. Like, I can't name another song that came out of this band.
I mean, some people are maybe super into the Pharaohs. I don't know. Maybe maybe for them that's their Beatles.
I don't know, but there was a version called Eddie and the Hot Rods in the UK in 1976. Have you ever heard of this, Tim?
Yeah, I think that was from a film or something like that. Eddie and the Hot Rods.
Why? So it says the song referenced Joe Strummer live version of the Clash hit Capitol Radio featuring Live from Here to Eternity. The song is also heard in a number of films. Bandits in the Million, I don't know. More American. There's 1,000 of them, Tim. There's like 5 movies that I was in,
Yeah.
including Scooby-Doo 2, Happy Gilmore, Shrimp on the Barbie. I didn't even know that was a movie.
There
So,
we
yes.
go. Scooby-Doo 2, which everyone will tell you is far better than the original. I think you really got it going in the second installment.
Fair enough. I also thought this was funny because I love Kelsey Grammer and I was forced to watch Frasier as a kid. In a promotion for an upcoming episode of the sitcom Frasier, they saw Woody Boyd, the character portrayed by Woody Harrelson, visit the title character portrayed by Kelsey Grammer in Seattle, and they recorded the song under the title Woody Woody.
Interesting.
That probably means literally nothing to anybody else, but I watched a lot of Frasier as a kid. My mom was big into Frasier. I don't know. Anyway, so moving along.
I was going to say, is Frasier, that was a spin-off from Cheers, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, it was. You are correct. And basically, they had like a radio show that they did on Frasier. But yeah, I watched, and then, I mean, my mom didn't really watch Cheers as much. We watched some of it, but she was big on Frasier.
Yep.
Anyway, and if you've never watched Cheers, I highly suggest you do it because it was a good one. Number 2 in 1965 is another song that I feel like everybody would know. And number 3 is I Can't Help Myself, Sugar Pie Honey Bunch, and I Can't Get No Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones.
Both of which are classics. Sugar Pie, Honey Bunch, boo-boo-boo-boo. No, I hope that doesn't get a copyright strike.
I mean, it was so on point. Like, you hit those notes perfectly, Tim. We may.
I can't help myself.
Okay, I do have to ask a question, and I'm embarrassed to ask this. I'm not sure I know number 4, Tim, and I feel like I probably do know it. I just don't know it. It says, You Were On My Mind. We 5? Who is We 5?
I don't know.
Okay, well, then we're going to click it because I don't know who that is either. We 5 was a 1960s rock folk music group based in San Francisco, California, best known for their hit of the 1965 remake, Ike Civilians, You Were On My Mind, which reached number 1. None of this. It's so weird to me that like there were just these hits that like I just don't know. You just assume you know, Tim, until you don't.
No, I mean, it seems to be like a lot of music becomes classic and it's been popular through the ages, but there were other songs in that period that, just didn't make it or just didn't end up being
It's
popular.
not as timeless, yeah.
Yeah, people just don't remember them.
Well, the rest of them were very timeless because You've Lost That Loving Feeling, The Righteous Brothers, Downtown, Petula Clark, and Helped by the Beatles. So they were all very timeless. But I was like, We 5. I've literally never heard those words before. I thought Tim was going to tell me it was some weird British band I wasn't familiar with.
No, I'm stumped by the world of the We 5. But again, they probably have some big fans out there, big We 5 fans.
I know. Someone's probably screaming at us because we don't know what that is. All right. So we're going to go into 1970, which we both know this song very, very well. I think we've talked about it in probably multiple times on the podcast. I'm not shocked this is the top song of 1970, but I kind of am. Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is peak Simon and Garfunkel. This is an iconic song from them, and I don't know, it's a timeless hit.
So I have to ask you a question that has nothing to do with the music, even though this is a music podcast. Have you ever compared a photo of Simon and Garfunkel, like visually?
Yeah, Paul Simon is about 4'7".
And why? Okay, so it's the hair for me. Paul Simon has like these little tiny bangs, and then Garfunkel's hair is like the size of Connecticut. Like, if you've never seen them, they have the weirdest, like, and they always look like they're staring into your soul in every photo. I realize that their music is very serious, Bridge Over Troubled Water, like very. You know what I mean? I don't want to say it's disingenuous, but it's very weird for our listeners. If you've never seen just like a photo op of Simon and Garfunkel together, first of all, they're always wearing turtlenecks, but they're just the weirdest two people. I don't understand the connection.
Well, I mean, Paul Simon got involved with Art Garfunkel because he was a great singer, and Paul Simon wasn't really ready to sing his own songs. And then when he realized he could sing his own songs, he was like, "See you later, Art Garfunkel." But yeah, Art Garfunkel has like this huge, like massive hair on his head, and it's like curly and stuff. And the interesting thing is that he's in an episode of Flight of the Conchords, which was filmed in the early 2000s. And he still had the same kind of hair.
I don't know. It's just very interesting because every time I see them together, you see them and it's always like a headshot on, and it's a very distinct photo. I've never seen them in any other capacity together, unless they're singing, like in the Bridge Over Troubled Water video. You know, it's very plain and they're just singing because it's such a dramatic song. Now, number 2 from 1970 is The Long to Be Close to You, The Carpenters, which didn't surprise me. I mean, the Carpenters were very popular. And number 3 was American Woman, The Guess Who, not to be confused with The Who.
Yeah, The Guess Who's American Woman. I mean, that was covered by Lenny Kravitz many years later, and that's one of those songs that appears on the Greatest Rock Hits in History, Volume 2, featuring The Guess Who.
But no one knows any other song by them. Not really. I would rank them up to be one-hit wonders, right?
I think they had a number of hits, but that's the only one I can think of.
And to be fair, I will say I prefer the Lenny Kravitz version. I think his is better.
Well,
Don't come for me, internet.
Well, Lenny Kravitz had that sort of retro throwback sort of sound, though. He originally went back to the 60s, then he went to the 70s, and he discovered the music from the 80s. So I'm assuming the music he's making now is pretty much contemporary at this point. He's probably rapping and using samplers.
Have you seen his giant scarves that he wears, though?
Oh, have I seen his giant scarves? Yes. There was this photograph of him.
It's ridiculous.
And maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that. And he was out. And, Lenny Kravitz always looks very stylish. He's got a very stylish look about him. And he was in winter, and he's wearing like this big, long, sort of button-up winter coat. Again, very fashionable. He's got a great look. He's a good-looking guy. And he was wearing a scarf, but this scarf he had was comically massive, like bigger than a scarf really should be. But the best thing is the memes, because people got that scarf and then made it 10 times bigger.
It just got bigger with every
It got
photo.
bigger and bigger and bigger. And in the end, there was like memes that was like a walking scarf that had like a Lenny Kravitz around its neck. It went to places that you could never ever think of.
Yes, if you've never seen Lenny Kravitz with the scarf, just give it a Goog when you have a moment, and it will give you a chuckle, because it started out comically. Like, so Pharrell Williams wears those big hats, and they're comically big too. It's just like, and you know what I mean. And so I always compare it to that, but I know the exact photo Tim is talking about. And every time I think of Lenny Kravitz, I think of American Woman, and then I think of American guitar style thing, and then I think of comically big scarves. That's all I think of.
I think at this point, his scarf has eclipsed his music.
It really has. All right. Well, number 4 is Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. Not a shocker. And then War, like Edward Starr and Ain't No Mountain High Enough, which is a song I will say has been re-recorded and recorded and re-recorded to death. And I honestly, Tim, am at the point where I could never hear it again and I'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, at the time it was probably a great song, but a classic song gets re-recorded and re-recorded, and at some point you get burnt out on it.
I mean, it's a good song, a great song even, but that is one of those songs that I feel like every person who put out music from 1970 to 1980 thought they could do a version of it for whatever reason, and I don't know why. With that being said, we're going into 1975, and I gave Tim a hint on this one because I may have been singing this when Tim came into the Zoom earlier. And this will keep us together, Captain and Tennille, which is a favorite of mine and has also been used in every movie since the beginning of time.
Yeah, this is the super sounds of the 70s, Captain and Tennille. I used to have a Captain and Tennille album in my vinyl record collection before I downsized it. It was before vinyl records dried up in thrift shops. This album that this is on was a thrift shop staple.
Well, you know what's funny, though, is I recently learned, and I didn't know this, the song is written by Neil Sedaka. Did you know that, Tim?
I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me.
But Sedaka has openly admitted the main chord progression is from Do It Again by the Beach Boys. And then added a progression including the augmented chords that basically on top of it. So it's basically like Do It Again by the Beach Boys. And then he added augmented chords on top of it that were inspired by Al Green. And the melody was actually written with Diana Ross in mind. The love. Yeah, that part was, he thought Diana Ross was going to sing it. I think Captain Tennille did fine. But I just thought it was interesting that Neil Sedaka has openly said that he basically copied the Beach Boys, which I'm not super familiar with the song Do It Again. I need to go back and listen. But it's so weird to me when you hear stuff like that, because nowadays, if you even breathe a song that sounds familiar with another song, somebody's going to sue you. But he's just like, nah, I stole it from the Beach Boys, and no one said a word.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many chord progressions in popular music. I mean, and eventually you're going to stumble across the same ones. I mean, hats off to him for being honest about where he copped the chord progression from, but it doesn't surprise me. Even the best songwriters are borrowing other people's stuff.
That's fair. And there is a Spanish version, I guess. I've never heard it, but there's a Spanish version that was super popular and also in Spanish countries topped the charts. And it was sang by Captain Tennille, the same singers and everything. So
I'm always interested in alternative language versions for a native speaker to listen to it and tell me whether it's any good. I'm always interested about that because we spoke about the ABBA Spanish songs, and I think you said that they were actually not too bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my older sister and her husband listened to them, and they said they were not too bad. They said that there were a few little things that were off, that they might not say it quite that way, but overall it was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. Unlike the David Lee Roth album, which is sung in Spanish, which apparently is terrible.
Fair to know. I mean, I don't really associate David Lee Roth with the Spanish version in general, so maybe I'm not that shocked, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, that whole album I mean, I can't speak Spanish, but I think I prefer the Spanish version to the English version because it is hilarious.
That's fair. All right, so back to 1975. I'll just throw out the rest of them that are kind of in the top little whatever. Number 2 is Rhinestone Cowboy by Glenn Campbell, which does not surprise me. And number 3 did surprise me because this is actually... So I have a few Elton John songs that I absolutely adore. And for some reason, I feel like this song is not one that gets mainstream popularity. You don't hear it as much. Philadelphia Freedom by Elton John. I always thought that was an underrated song, but apparently in 1975 it was not.
No, I love this song by Elton John. I think this is a really good song. I have some very personal memories around Philadelphia Freedom and a cassette tape that Philadelphia Freedom was on, but I'm not sharing that with our friends on this podcast.
Fair enough. I don't know. I feel like I play it. So I feel like when you talk to people about Elton John, there's a handful of obvious songs they may bring up, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't ever feel like Philadelphia Freedom is one of those. But if I'm going to pick an Elton John song, Philadelphia Freedom is within my top 3 easily for me personally. Because I absolutely love this song. I think the beat is great. I think the way he presents it is great. I don't care that it's about Philadelphia and their freedom. That's got nothing to do with it. I think the sound is just really good.
Yeah, and the lyrics are written by Bernie Taupin anyway, so I don't know what Bernie was thinking, but Elton would have read the lyrics and then the music just came to him, and boom, there you go, Philadelphia Freedom.
It's just perfect. I don't know. But anyway, I was surprised to see that's at number 3 because in my mind, I felt like it was an underrated Elton John song. But maybe I was wrong, guys. I can be wrong. Only once, though.
Joy, I've never known you to be wrong.
There was one podcast where Tim let me say the complete wrong thing, and then 30 seconds later, I looked at him and went, "You really let me say that?" He goes, "I was waiting for you to figure it out." He's like, "You're just being you. You'll figure it out eventually." I was like, "Okay, well, there we go." I'm not sure I know this next song on the list. Number 4 is "Before the Next Teardrop Falls" by Freddie Fender.
I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar with the song.
And then number 5 is "My Eyes Adored You" by Frankie Valli, which I am familiar with.
Yes, I'm familiar with that one too.
I need to give "Before the Next Teardrops Fall" a goog after the episode because I feel like it's a song I know, but I don't know I know it. If that makes sense. Tim understands. Now, Tim, you are what I would call a 1980s aficionado. You feel very firm in your belief that 1980s was the best genre of music and you love it. Am I correct in that statement?
Everything about 1980s culture feels very warm and familiar to me. The music, the films, the television, the fashion, the technology. If there was a time machine, if a DeLorean really existed, I would go back to 1982 to re-experience it again. Because I was around in 1982, but I was not really old enough to appreciate it. And, you just live in your life. But, in thinking about all the things that have happened and all the things you've seen and all the things you like, I'd like to be there in 1982, watching the TV when Knight Rider came out in 82. I'd like to be there for WrestleMania. I'd just like to relive that culture again.
Okay. So my question is, if you could pick a pop song that you think, now I don't know that you're going to pick the right one, but I'm curious to know what you think from the Billboard 100 singles of 1980s. Think pop music, not rock. What would you pick?
I don't know. It's hard to say because there's so many hits. Now, of course, you're talking about 1980. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the 80s didn't get fully into the explosion in culture till maybe 82, 83, because MTV came out in 81 or 82 or something like that. I mean, there's so many songs to pick. I really couldn't even begin to pick one.
Well, I was surprised to find out it's "Call Me" by Blondie.
For 1980?
For 1980.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I wouldn't say it necessarily sums up the whole 80s because, you're just at the beginning of the decade, but a classic song from Blondie and it has that sound. I mean, Blondie really were out in the late 70s, so they were just coming into their own in the 80s.
Well, I think we have to keep in perspective. What year was it, supposedly that disco died? Was it 82, 83, something along those lines? I know my mom said it was literally the year she graduated high school. But anyway, So I feel like some of these songs are kind of coming in post-disco, too, because number 2, it doesn't surprise me, but it surprised me, but just wait till you hear the other songs. "Another Brick in the Wall" Part 2, Pink Floyd. Then you have "Magic" by Olivia Newton-John, which, to be fair, I love Olivia Newton-John, but I don't really think of the song "Magic" very much. And then number 4 is "Rock With You," Michael Jackson, which is kind of like Michael Jackson's disco sound, really.
Yeah, Rock With You is from Off the Wall.
Which was a whole disco album.
Which is a late 70s album, but the whole thing is sort of disco-y anyway.
And then it's "Do That Thing One More Time," Captain Tennille. And number 6 is "Crazy Little Thing Called Love" by Queen.
There we are. They're sort of rockabilly throwback track.
But think about how many great songs I just mentioned in the next 5 minutes. 1980 was a cool year, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we're going to dilly-dally through this decade, I think we're going to be finding some absolutely fantastic songs.
Now, I will say, number 7 is "Coming Up" by Paul McCartney, and number 8 is "Funky Town." I have been burnt out of Funky Town, Tim. Can you listen to Funky Town anymore?
Yes, I can listen to Funky Town, and I can also listen to "Coming Up." That is a great song.
So Funky Town was burnt out to me, probably for something that you have never seen in your time. Shrek 2, the movie. Have you ever watched the Shrek movie, Tim?
No, but I went to Universal Studio. I've been to Universal Studios in Hollywood, California, a number of times. But the very first time we went there, we went to a Shrek 5D experience where it's like a 3D cinema, apart from the seats shake a bit and then it squirts water on your head occasionally. So I'm familiar with the Shrek universe.
So in the second Shrek, there's a scene where they're moving into Far, Far Away, which is like the town that the girl's parents is from because they're from the kingdom or whatever. You get it. It's like a play on old king movies or whatever. And when they're going through it, Funky Town is playing. And I have watched Shrek so many times, and now all I associate lip sync will never be the same for me because all I can think about is Shrek 2 the
movie. But what a great name for a band. Lip Sync. Lip Sync. How clever is that?
I mean, it's genius, Tim. That's why lives rent free in everyone's head. But to play on it, what I was going to tell you, though, I just wanted to bring up more of 1980. 1980 could have been a better time for music because number 9, it's still rock and roll to me, Billy Joel. The Rose, Bette Midler, Escape, the Pina Colada song.
Oh, I mean, this 80, what a great year for music.
Cars, Gary Newman, Cruising, Smokey Robinson, like working my way back to you, but the Spinners, like it just keeps going. Lost in Love, Air Supply, Little Genie, Little Genie, everybody, Elton John. Like it just like every one of these songs that's the top 16 songs of 1980, Tim, and every single one of those are hits that somebody would know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not called the golden decade for no reason.
Like crazy. Upside Down, Diana Ross, Please Don't Go.
Oh, fantastic. Nile Rodgers production as well. Amazing.
Babe, Sticks, like, and just like every song on this I mean, I don't know, like, what was happening. If you graduated like high school, or I don't know what you call it in the UK, Tim. What's the equivalent to graduating high school in the UK?
Well, you just leave secondary school.
Okay, when you do that in the UK, if it was 1980, you had the best soundtrack, I think, of any of the other decades I've been through.
Absolutely.
It's just crazy to me. And like, we could keep going, but Tim, when I say it is hit after hit, but I did find it very interesting that Blondie is number 1. But I stand by my thing on Blondie. Nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, can sing Debbie Harry besides Debbie Harry. There's something about her voice and something about the way she sings that is incredibly hard for. It's like I said with Heart. Heart's the other band I always talk about. No one should karaoke Debbie Harry. I'm sorry. I stand by that.
The only person is Miley Cyrus.
Hers was really good. I will give you that, Tim.
Yes.
But that's because you have to have like even though Blondie sounds like very poppy and she has an edge to her, and she also has a very interesting pitch to her voice in the songs. Like, for an example, another one that I always think of when you think of Call Me, The Tide Is High or Call Me, right? The tempo, and Tim might be able to explain this musically because I don't know how exactly it works as far as the musicians playing it. It's like when you sing it, it doesn't necessarily match dead on the tempo of what the musicians are playing. You have to know exactly where you have to hit the lyrics for it to sound perfect.
Yeah, she's not singing on the one. She's just sort of feeling it and sort of floating him. Exactly. She's sort of floating it through the beat of the song. And I mean, that's her delivery, and that's what gives her style.
And that's what that's what makes it, I think, interesting, and that's why I feel like it's very hard for anybody to cover Blondie.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's almost like stylistic, kind of like Tim says. Miley Cyrus does a good job at because I don't know, I find Blondie to be a little bit almost like new wave kind of rock. Yes, they're pop, but they do have a rock sound to them. And Heart of Glass, I mean, or One Way or Another, which has been, I don't know, there's probably about 1,000 versions of One Way or Another now.
Oh, there's 1,002 versions of One Way.
Well, the best one is Sabrina the Teenage Witch's version that I made Tim listen to on the Sabrina album.
Many would say the definitive version.
Blondie's literally her eye Debbie Harry's eye just started twitching. But the coolest fact about Debbie Harry, and I don't know if this is cool, but we talked about this. Supposedly she was almost picked up by Ted Bundy.
Yeah, we covered that on a previous episode. Go back to our episode where we covered that. But yes, that apparently was the case.
Crazy. All right. So we have determined that 1980 was a great year for music. Now, we're going into 1985 because I'm doing this by fives because we only have so much time. Number one does not surprise me at all, but it is a song we are all very familiar with. This is Careless Whisper by Wham.
Well, it's George Michael.
It is George Michael, which is a favorite of mine. But also, Wham is one of those bands that, I feel like there was a resurgence of people who fell in love with them at some point.
Yeah, because I mean, Wham, George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley, and as we've said before, Andrew Ridgeley was really just eye candy, really. I don't think he wrote any of the songs. No. I don't think he performed in any of the songs, and I think his vocal contributions were probably next to nothing. It was just George Michael, really.
How do I get to be the person where I get paid Wham money to do nothing? What surgeries do I need to get on this body and face to be that pretty? They pay me to do nothing.
I don't know, but I mean, Wham were incredibly popular, and the hits of Wham are amazing. Like Club Tropicana, Wham Rap. I mean, it's all good stuff.
Wake Me Up Before You Go.
Oh, freedom. Goodness me. Amazing.
So many. But I always think about this when Tim talks about the fact that Andrew literally did nothing. But the other thing is this song has been Brian McKnight did a version, Kenny G did a version. I don't know. There's probably saxophone versions because it's got a very I think there's a saxophone in the original. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's famously has that sax line that runs all the way through it.
Oh, yes. And so there's 1,000 saxophone, but how do I become Andrew Ridgeley? How do I get to live the life, Tim, where you make Wham money, but you literally do nothing?
I don't know, but I'm sure he had a fabulous time.
I'm Googling what his net worth is. I just want to know.
I think he works in music publishing now or music management.
Probably 40 million.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's his Wham fortune or his money that he's made since he's been involved with other things in the music industry.
Apparently he did, in fact, attend George Michael's funeral. That's the next question in line.
I would imagine so. He was his friend. He was his, he was in Wham together. I would imagine he probably did.
He was born in Windlesham, Surrey. Tim, say that. Windlesham.
Windlesham?
It's Windlesham, Surrey, England.
I'm gonna have to look this up because I don't know what I don't know what those words mean. Andrew Ridgeley.
Tim's gonna read it and be like, "Really, Joy? What are you trying to say?"
Windlesham.
What the hell? Put that out, Tim. Put that down. Don't leave hell in there. Now, how in the world did you get Windlesham? Okay, I do see it now.
It's Windlesham.
I saw Windows. Somebody out there is literally screaming at me right now, like, Joy, are you kidding me? Okay, well, he's from that place in Surrey, England. All right. Number 2 is a great song that does not surprise me. It will not surprise Tim. And that is Like a Virgin by Madonna.
Yeah, I mean, this is peak 80s Madonna. I mean, as we've said before, she did not write this song. But yeah, this is an iconic Madonna song. And I mean, I just can't speak highly enough about how good this song is.
She embodied it, I think, is what it came down to.
Yeah.
Because there's 2 hooks in it, and she's singing it in a higher register, but there's also a bass line. Do you know what I mean, Tim? There's 2 very big hooks in this song if you ever listen to it. And she is singing it into what I think is like a higher register for her because
Yep.
she is like a mezzo soprano. But for her, this is one of her higher songs, like a virgin. You know what I mean? Don't come for me, internet. I know that's probably not on key, but she's singing it much higher. And then there's like a cool bass line in the back of it that you don't hear a lot in her other songs.
Hmm.
And so I think it made the difference. But of course, we all know MTV Music Awards, her rolling around on stage really is what embraced the whole song. She took it to another rise. But Tim, do you know who is the producer on this song?
I think it's Nile Rodgers.
It is Nile Rodgers. Ding, 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 ding. The next bingo card's going to be Nile Rodgers. It's going to be like, don't use that as a drinking game. You might end up in the hospital.
Well, the thing is, Nile Rodgers is so amazing, and he's been a part of so much good music. I mean, you only have to listen to something, that's probably Nile Rodgers, and it normally is.
It's like when I was in high school, I used to be part of what's known as MAC, which is kind of like a quiz bulletin, but I was captain of the history one because I was super into history. Me and Brandy were co-captains. And there was an ongoing joke that if there was a quote and you didn't know who to, like you didn't know what to guess, you just said it was Winston Churchill. And about 70% of the time you were right. So if anyone ever asks you who produced this song, if you say Nile Rodgers, about 60% of the time you'll be right.
Well, it's like that Winston Churchill quote, and it says, "Prime Minister, you are drunk. Lady, you are ugly, and in the morning I will be sober."
And that's literally how his quotes sounded at the time. Interesting, dude. But anyway, but it really worked because for some reason, even though I don't come from the internet, I'm not going to get into the political side of Winston Churchill, but half the stuff he said didn't always sound that great. So I don't know why they were always quoting him.
Well, I mean, he famously wartime president, prime minister. I've lived here so long, my brain just went to president.
I knew what you meant. He was the guy over it.
Exactly.
Oh, Tim, that reminds me. I have a question for you. This is a serious question. I need you to get your act together and think about this. Where's Kate Middleton? Where is she?
I only found out about this about 3 days ago, and I really have no interest in UK royal family. I wish them. I wish them well. I don't wish them any ill. There was never anything I was ever interested in.
To be fair, I don't either, but the internet is afire right now where she is. But I find it very interesting. Whatever little community they live in, the people who live there say they see her all the time. Like they have said 4 times, we just saw her walking down the street. I guess she had some type of abdominal surgery and is in recovery is supposedly what they're saying. But you know that with the royal family, there's always these weird conspiracy theories, right? And so everybody's got these weird thoughts. But people who live close to the house, Windsor, I guess, right? Is that where they live? I don't know, Tim. Where does the royal family live?
Well, they have Buckingham Palace, they have Windsor Castle, they have Balmoral up in Scotland. I mean, they've several places. I have no idea.
I think that she and the one she's married to, which I find ironic because he used to be the attractive one. And it's almost like his mom snatched his hairline back from him when he started becoming his father or something. I don't know. But the hairline's gone and now he's bald. He used to be the attractive one, Prince Charles. Charles was the pretty one.
I mean, define attractive.
William, Prince William. That was his name. Prince William.
I can think of 10 handsome-looking men off the top of my head, and none of that royal lot ever come close to that.
Well, in the early 2000s, between him and Harry, he was the more attractive one. But now Harry looks better than he does.
I pay no attention to the royal family.
I don't either. I'm American. Remember whenever...
Me too. I'm an American.
I remember me and my mom were talking about this, and I was like, Bob, I really don't care. And I was like, you remember our ancestors threw all that tea in the bay? I'm American. I don't know. The other thing is, Tim told me one time they have to pay money. What did you say? There's a tax that goes to the royal family?
Well, there's a thing called the civil list where it's out of general taxation. They get all this money to pay for their palaces and their salaries and all this kind of stuff.
That's a hard pass for me. That's where I end it. Anyway, if you're a big royal fan lover, go for it. I'm not judging you. I just wanted to ask Tim where he thought Kate Middleton is. And really, this is mostly a joke because of the whole Princess Diana thing. If you know, you know. We talked about it on some other episodes.
There we go.
All right. So with that being said, Tim, number 3 though goes back to Wham. So number 3 is "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go."
Classic sort of 50s throwback type song. Superb.
I mean, Wham was having a year. I'm telling you, I want to know how I become Andrew. Like, I don't want to have to do any work, Tim. I just want to be rich.
There we go.
That sounded really bad. But anyway, so with that being said, this is a song I could never hear again and be super happy, Tim. Number 4 for 1985 is "I Want to Know What Love Is" by Foreigner.
Classic. Absolute classic song.
Have you played this one in a band quite a bit, or is this not one that comes up much?
No, I've played "Hot Blooded" by Foreigner, but I've never played "I Want to Know What Love Is." The problem is you need a gospel, gospel orchestra behind you.
You also need a really good vocalist, and no offense, Tim has a pretty good vocalist in his band, but you have to have somebody who can pull that off pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not so much the lead vocal, it's the backing vocal, which is very strong.
It really is. Now, this is an artist that I feel like I forget about this person, and they randomly appear in my eyesight, and I remember how good they were, and I'm like, why do I forget about this person? So number 5 is "I Feel For You," Chaka Khan.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, do you feel like Chaka Khan is an underrated artist, Tim? I feel like she is.
I think she's probably an appropriately rated artist. I mean, she had all that work that she did with Rufus and Rufus and Chaka Khan, and then in the 80s she had her 80s output. But I don't know. "I'm Every Woman" is a great track. "I Feel For You" is a great track.
Tell me something good.
Yeah, I mean that's Rufus and Chaka Khan. But yeah, I think she's appropriately rated if I had to guess.
Really, I feel like if you go out and ask general people, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe Tim is on to something, but I feel like if you go out and ask the general public to name a few Chaka Khan songs, I just don't feel like people know who she is.
No, people will go around thinking her name is Yvette Stevens.
Well, that is her original name, but that's not related. Chaka Khan. Let me tell you Chaka Khan. Anyway.
Let me tell you Yvette Stevens. I want to tell you Yvette Stevens. It hasn't got the same ring.
They had to change it up a little bit. But no, I just don't know that, I don't feel like if I asked Charlie, who is Chaka Khan, he would know who that was.
No, I think you're probably right.
Which is kind of sad because she has a great singing voice, very high, can hit notes that are astronomically, you know what I mean, Tim?
Yeah.
She has an astronomical singing voice. I just don't feel like people know who she is.
And she's a great drummer. I like a really good drummer.
Is she a good drummer?
Yeah, there's a few videos of her on YouTube.
I didn't know that.
There's a few videos of her on YouTube playing drums, sitting in with bands. And I mean, I can drum sort of if I had to, but not great. But she's doing rolls, she's playing tunes on the right cymbal. I mean, it's great.
I had a dream last night, Tim, that I ended up. Okay, so everybody hear me out. I've talked many times about my history with the drums and how I tried very hard, but I was never a great drummer. You put me behind a hi-hat and a snare drum, I can do a basic 4-tempo. I can do maybe a roll across my tums, and I can do a wipeout on my floor top, and that's about it, right, Tim? With a good crash cymbal at the end. I had a dream last night that for some reason I was back in high school. I don't know why. When you're an adult, why you have dreams that you're back in high school, I don't understand. But for some reason, I was picked to play the drums at my high school graduation, which is a bad idea.
Interesting.
In the dream, I was so they took me out of the concert and replaced me on spot. And it was in the middle of my high school graduation. I was such a bad drummer. The guy comes out and pauses the entire graduation, was like, "Try this for me." And I was so bad at it. He literally said, "Okay, you're done," and put somebody else on drums.
Oh, dear.
That was my dream, Tim. I have no clue why. I think back now and I'm like, why was I playing drums at my high school graduation? Nobody was playing drums.
I have nothing. I have nothing.
Anyway, so that's what I think of my drum skills. Shaka Khan's got me beat on that one. Anyway, all right. So let's go. Let's go to the next year, which would be 1990, which is a very important year because Joy was born that year.
Woo!
And this is a song Tim has talked about. He loves. This is a band we both love. And this is a song that we think is amazing. It is Hold On by Wilson Phillips.
Yes, this is one of these songs that gets stuck in my head that I can't get rid of for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I haven't had Wilson Phillips's Hold On stuck for a while because I got involved in that Electrica Salsa nonsense, which finally is almost out of my brain. But, you know, I've had Islands in the Stream stuck in there. But yeah, Hold On by Wilson Phillips is one of those songs which I've had stuck in my brain. It is such a good song. It is so good.
And for those who don't know, Carney and Wendy Wilson, the daughters of Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, and then China Phillips, and then the daughters of John and Michael Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas. So they really had music in their blood, like
Yes.
from the get-go. But I can't think of a song that like epitomizes the 1990s more than Hold On by Wilson Phillips.
Yeah, it's an absolute classic.
And it's been used, like me and Tim have said many times, in every movie that came out during that genre.
Yeah, and it's been an anthem for a lot of people, like people in recovery and stuff. It's been a very pivotal song for them. So it's a great song all round.
Number 2, Tim, from 1990, the best year, is It Must Have Been Love by Roxette.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the whole of that album, I think it's off the album Look Sharp, I think. Or was it from a film soundtrack?
Christmas for the Heartbroken?
Hmm.
It Must Have Been Love, Christmas for the Heartbroken, it's a song written, da-da-da-da. Power Ballad, what album was it on? Hold on. Turn to Me?
No, I thought maybe I was getting it confused with Look Sharp because that's my favorite Roxette album.
Fair enough. Well, with that being said, once again though, Hold On and It Must Have Been Love is very on brand for 1990.
Yes.
I can't think of anything. Number 3 is a song Tim has talked about. I have talked about. Everybody in the world has talked about. It is Nothing Compares to You by Sinead O'Connor.
Yes, absolutely. This is a song that very much reminds me of doing my work experience in Curry's in Hounslow High Street, which was a retailer of electronics, which is very similar to Best Buy. And I have a very vivid memory. They had a video wall set up with MTV playing on it, and that video was playing on there.
Well, it's a very distinct music video, so that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, this is a song. This is Poison by Belle DeVoe. That did not take Tim say it. I can't.
Belle Biv DeVoe.
I said DeVoe. Where did that come from? Anyway, this song stands very much in my head because I always think about Matthew Morrison on Glee when he formed that band that I told Tim about, and they did all of the songs. That's all I can think of. And how inappropriate it was for a teacher to be singing this in high school. But anyway, number 5, Vogue, Madonna.
Yeah, this is Madonna as she's stepping out of her sort of 80s pop realm, and she's becoming sort of diva Madonna. She's becoming the Madonna that she became in later years.
Well, and as much as she drives me insane, like me and Sam have talked about how inappropriate some of the stuff she's done is, and her diva kind of tracks. I still love Madonna in a weird way, and I think of her in Vogue, like that's just epitome Madonna to me. Like as annoying as she can be, I guess I still love her.
Yeah, and I remember at the time when I was listening to the radio, and people didn't know what voguing was.
It is a dance.
Yeah, and it had to be explained by top 40 DJs what a vogue was.
Was Casey Kasem telling everybody how to vogue?
No, it was probably David Kidd Jensen or someone like that who was on UK radio.
I have no clue when Casey Kasem passed away, by the way, so I don't know what year he passed away.
I don't know, but as they would say, and on with the countdown.
I always just think of Casey Kasem because he did Shaggy's voice on Scooby-Doo. That's what I think of when I think of Casey Kasem.
I feel I want to repeat my Ghostbusters thing I can do off the top of my head, but I'm going to restrain myself because we've got a lot more to get through.
Yes, we do. Okay, so we will leave it with number 6 for 1990, and that is Vision of Love by Mariah Carey, which 1990 was very much Mariah Carey's era. And as somebody born in this year, this all makes sense because all of these songs are now played in a CVS. So it makes sense why.
Everything comes together beautifully and nicely.
You could easily walk into a CVS and Hold On by Wilson Philips will we play. All right, so 1995 is Gangster's Paradise by Coolio.
Yep, this is a song that I'm familiar with. I mean, this is towards the tail end of where I was paying interest to popular music, but I am familiar with that song.
Probably because of the Weird Al version.
Yes, 100%.
I have a hard time because when I start singing it, I weave the Gangster's Paradise and the Weird Al version together, Tim, and they become one. So, number 2 and number 3 are from the same band, TLC, and that is Waterfalls and Creep, which I think I made Tim suffer through.
Yes, a very early episode. Joy got me to listen to like 5 albums I'd never heard before, and one of them was TLC. I quite like Waterfalls, but I found the rest of it a little bit rappy for my liking.
I don't know, Tim. I can easily think, so I creep. Yeah, I just keep it. That lives rent-free in my head. I'm sorry. So you do know number 4. It is Kiss from a Rose by Seal.
Yes, that's fantastic. And as I said, I once saw Seal at Heathrow Airport. He's a very tall chap, and he was wearing a massive black leather jacket with his very distinctive dreadlocks. He couldn't have been anybody else.
See, when I think of Seal, I think of him bald, but I do remember the dreadlocks as well.
Yeah, when I saw him at Heathrow, he had dreadlocks.
I only recently learned that he was British. I don't know why I assumed he was American.
No, he's a British chap.
I don't know why. I only recently learned this, okay? I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess though, like, I don't really think about it, but when I've heard him speak, he sounds British, so I don't know why it didn't.
Yeah, he's very well spoken. He's a very proper sounding gentleman.
No, I will say, Tim, I don't know this song. I know this band, but I'm not sure I know this song. On Bended Knee by Boys to Men.
No, nothing from me.
Now, I do think you know this song because it's comical and has been used in movies and jokes and things. This is Real McCoy, Another Night.
No, I have nothing with that one.
What?
See, we are getting into the realm of my music knowledge taking a massive nosedive.
Do you know who Real McCoy is? Because they're like the German kind of Euro dance.
No.
Serious? Another night, another dream, but it always you got the reason of love. What?
No.
Well, it's a good thing they revoked your European card. You've never heard that song, not once.
Nope. No, I've got nothing.
I just can't believe because it's not like it's like almost comical Euro dance.
Well, maybe it was a US thing because this is the Billboard Hot 100. Maybe it wasn't a UK thing.
You make a valid point. I do have to give you a break, but they're not even American. Okay, anyway, moving on. Yeah. Number 7 was Fantasy by Mariah Carey, which this was really Mariah Carey's like year. I feel like she was popular from 1990 to like 1996.
Isn't that the song that has a sample of the Tom Tom Club in it?
It absolutely is, yes. Yeah. Which is a fantastic. I like the original and I like her version.
Yeah.
Great choice. All right. Number 8 is Take a Bow by Madonna.
Yep. Heard of that one.
You have heard of that. Now
yes.
It's literally the next few episodes, the next few songs are just going to be going, Tim, have you heard this?
And no.
To be fair, I don't think I have heard this one. Number 9 is Don't Take It Personal, Monica.
Nothing. I don't know that.
All right, we'll end that with 1995. Yeah. I still can't believe you haven't heard Another Night. Okay, well, now that's in my head. So we're getting into 2000, Tim.
Oh, it's going to take a big nosedive. It's going to be a nosedive.
This is going to be crazy territory for you. Have you ever heard the song Breathe by Faith Hill?
I think so.
That one I feel like you probably have heard because it's a radio hit. Now, number two, I do know you have heard. This is Smooth, Santana featuring Rob Thomas.
Yes, absolutely. This was the big comeback album for Carlos Santana, Supernatural, where he did an album of new music, but he had different singers on every track. And the Rob Thomas, who I think, is he from Matchbox 20? Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
This was probably the big breakout hit off that album. And I've played Smooth in bands. We used to play that in Guilty Party, and I used to play the lead guitar part of Smooth. It's actually a lot of fun to play.
So this is one of my favorite, probably of all time songs. Like, as far as like, you just asked me like, what's one of your favorite songs? I absolutely adore this album. I mean, I adore Santana to begin with. And like I said, one time that there was a baseball player with the same name who passed away, and it freaked me out because I thought Santana died. He didn't. But I will say this album was amazing. And number three is also Maria Maria Santana.
Yep,
you're also familiar with.
Yep, from the same album. I don't think that was so much of a hit in the UK, but it was an absolutely great song.
Well, and it's a play on West Side Story, Maria Maria, that kind of thing. And the melody was apparently inspired by the Wu-Tang Clan song. I'm not familiar with the Wu-Tang Clan, and I'm not going to pretend like I am Tim. I'm not that cool. But I thought it was interesting. Did you know this song is written by Wyclef Jean, the one Wyclef from like the Black Eyed Peas?
Wyclef Jean?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but that doesn't surprise me. From my understanding, he is an accomplished songwriter.
He is, and I think he's on the British version of The Voice or something now. I don't know.
Very possibly. I don't watch the US version of The Voice, so I have no idea.
So Tim's like, I'm definitely not watching the British version. I only have seen like little samples of it. I think he's on it. I only associate him with the weird version of what was it they did? Live Aid, Tim? Not Live Aid. We Are the World.
We Are the World. Yeah.
He wrote the We Are the World, the modern day one, and it was very weird.
Yeah, there's only one We Are the World. Don't mess with that.
It's fine. So I associate him with that, and I associate him with the Black Eyed Peas, and that's pretty much it.
There we go.
Anyway, so with that being said, apparently he wrote that song. I thought that was very interesting. All right, so we're gonna get even dicier. We're gonna go into 2005. Are you okay, Tim?
I'm ready.
So, number one is "We Belong Together" by Mariah Carey. We belong together. That one.
No, never heard of that one.
Okay, I feel like you have heard number two. This is "Holla Back Girl" by Gwen Stefani.
I have heard that song. Yes.
Was it by choice or torture?
It was. I tell you, it was around the time, 2005. That was around the time I was watching a lot of David Letterman, and if I remember correctly, they did like a comedy skit with Alan Coulter where he would sing "Holla Back Girl." So I'm familiar with it from that.
I like how that's the story of that. You know, "Holla Back Girl." Anyway, so I know this song, but there's no doubt in my mind Tim has no idea. "Let Me Love You" by Mario.
Nothing. I don't know.
He may know this song, "Since You've Been Gone" by Kelly Clarkson.
Yes, I do know that song.
Look at you, Tim. Yeah. Okay, he's not going to know this, though. "One Two Step" by Sierra featuring Missy Elliott.
No.
Let me see you 1 2 step.
No, I've not heard of that song.
I do know you know this song from the Glee episode. Number 6 is "Gold Digger," Kanye West featuring Jamie Foxx.
Yes, I have heard that song. I'm not a fan of that kind of music.
And number 7 is where we'll leave it for 2005. And Tim does know this song because it's more of the rock genre. It's "Boulevard of Broken Dreams" by Green Day.
Yeah, I don't think I've played that. I've played When September Ends. I've played American Idiot, but I'm familiar with that because it's from that same album.
It is. And I mean, I feel like generally most people are accepting of Green Day.
At this point, I mean, they started out as like a modern punk band, but at this point, they're part of the establishment, really.
They're listening to us going, "We are not part of the establishment."
Yeah, and yes, you are now, Green Day.
So that is actually Molly, who was on the episode, Tim. That is her favorite band of all time.
There we go.
probably now up there with Taylor Swift.
I was going to say, I mean, I know Molly from the episode and I follow her on social media and I know that she's your friend and all that kind of stuff. But the little I know, I would put Taylor Swift and then Green Day would be underneath that. And Molly, if you're listening, correct me if I am wrong.
Well, up until 2 years ago, her favorite band of all time was Green Day. I cannot confirm it has now changed.
Well,
but
maybe, in fact, I would probably say Taylor Swift, Ghost, Green Day. And if I'm wrong with that, you need to tell me.
All right. Well, if he's wrong, I mean, I guess Tim's now your best friend, Molly. I'm out. Or if I'm wrong, if he's right. To be fair, though, yes. But from what I'm growing up with her favorite band was Green Day.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I'm curious to know because we're getting into the 2010s.
Oh, crikey O'Reilly.
All right. We only have 3 more years to talk about. Have you heard this song by Kesha, TikTok?
No.
TikTok on the clock, but nothing.
No.
Really? Because that song was everywhere.
Joy, when do you know me to watch TV or listen to the radio or get involved with that stuff?
Do you live under a rock?
Yes, I do. And it's very comfortable and it's very warm.
I actually don't know this very well. I wouldn't know this song if you asked me. Number 2 is, now Tim will know it, Need You to Know by Lady Antebellum.
No, it's country. Isn't it like country stuff? No.
I think so. Number 3, you may know this one because it's Train. You know the band Train.
Yeah.
It's Hey Soul Sister.
Yes, 100%. I do know that. Pat Monahan, the singer from Train, is actually a really, really good singer. And he sings Led Zeppelin songs so well. And Train covered Zeppelin songs live. And I have a live Train album, which I bought in a thrift shop. And it's really good. If they ever came around here, I would go and see them because just on the strength of that live album, they are such a good live band.
He's so terrifying looking to me, though. This man has the whitest teeth of any person I've ever seen. Have you ever seen his teeth, Tim? They're too perfect.
Yeah, he has a very unique mouth arrangement, it's fair to say.
But he can sing. Tim is correct. I love Train, and I actually love this song, the Hey Soul Sister song. It was in my head probably for the whole year of 2010. It was kind of weird because, it's like, Hey Soul Sister, ain't that Mr. on the radio? The lyrics weren't exactly superb, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, now, it's not Joy. It's not Imagine, for goodness sake.
Now, Tim, you do know number 4 because it is Katy Perry and it is California Girls.
I love this song. This is a fantastic. It has a little interlude in the middle by Snoop Dogg.
Mr. Snoop Dogg. Yes, I absolutely love this song. This song lives rent-free in my head. I care it comes up. And to be fair, Katy Perry is one of those artists that I think lives free in everybody's head at this point. Do you know the amount of times I've been outside and saw a bag blow by and go, oh, do you ever feel?
Yeah, like a plastic bag.
And I'm like, no, Katy, I really don't, but thank you.
Yeah. I tell you, I enjoy the musical output of Miss Hudson, it's fair to say. Her later stuff is very much dance orientated, dance rap orientated, and it's not really to my taste. But anything up to about Prism, I think is just really good pop music.
So the other day, and this is a shout out to our listener, Phil Reese, he was writing me about something, it was about music, on the Facebooks, and I was watching a documentary about Miss Katy Perry. And I sent it to him. We had a long discussion about her and how interesting the documentary was about her history. She did grow up very Christian and her background and how she became an artist.
Yeah.
It just happened like a day ago.
I got a lot of respect for her. And if she toured again, I would definitely go and see her. I mean, she was doing a Vegas residency up till recently. But, if she toured again, I would definitely go and see her. The problem is these artists get to this sort of level of fame where they're going to play massive football stadiums. And it's not going to be the sort of gig that I want to go to. I just want to go to like a theater type thing where there's maybe a few thousand people where it's going to sound great. You have a great view.
The Harvester, as we discussed.
Well, not even the Harvester,
episode.
but like the Performing Arts Centre where I saw Extreme, which is 2,000, 3,000, something like that. I don't know. So it's a pretty small arena in relative terms. That's where I want to see an artist. Seeing them in a massive football stadium, I don't know. I feel done with that.
It has to be the right artist, because I will say I saw Elton John in a Mouse football stadium, and I would do that again in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I always said I would do that for Paul McCartney, but then Paul McCartney played the Greensboro Coliseum, which is still a Wembley Arena style venue, but it was small enough where I'd consider it.
Fair enough. All right. I know for a fact Tim does not know this song, and that's okay. This is Usher featuring Will I Am. OMG.
I have nothing.
No words. All right. Well, I'll give you one more that you're not going to know, and then we'll move on to the next one. So the next one is Airplanes, B.O.B. featuring Haley Williams.
It just sounds like you made those names up. I have no idea.
It's literally like when Tim says something. Okay, so I'm convinced some of the stuff you guys like, the words in the UK are nonsense. And the same people who will like judge us for using the wrong version of color will be like, whippy dippy now. Like the weirdest stuff. The lollipop people who hold the signs. What are you? Like lollipop?
Yeah,
Anyway, it sounds
the
like
lollipop man or the lollipop lady.
like you will ask them this, and it will sound like the world's most recent candy that came out, and they'll be like, "No, it's the I don't know. I can't give an example off the top of my head, but it'll sound like the most ridiculous, like candy cane striper or something you've ever heard." And I'm like, "Really?" And then they'll get mad at you because you used the wrong version of French fry. I'm like, you just told me that was the lollipop, man. But anyway, that's how I feel, Tim, sometimes when you name things in the UK. I'm like, are we sure this is English? And then you're like, yes, Joy. It's even more English than the English you know. All right. So we're going to do 2015. I'll harass Tim with a few songs in 2020, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
He does know number one of 2015, and I know he knows it. It is Uptown Funk. Mark Ronson featuring Bruno Mars.
Yes, and I've played this in a band. Not only have I played this in a band, I've actually recorded it as part of a demo. I have a version of me playing guitar on it.
It is one of those songs that I liked at first, and I could go never again and hear it. I'd be perfectly fine. It was everywhere. Literally everywhere.
The band I was in at the time, that wasn't the sort of music we played, and we used to play the Dublin Moose Lodge. And the person behind the bar was super into that song because it was everywhere. And she kept saying, when are you going to learn Uptown Funk? When are you going to learn Uptown Funk? So we went into a practice like a few weeks later, and then we figured it all out and we played it. And my dear friend Kenny used to play keyboards on it. I used to play the funk guitar part. And it was great. Actually, it was really enjoyable to play.
It's a fun song. No, it's a fun song. It's a great song. Mark Ronson, who's like a British-born DJ, I think, he's fantastic. He produces music. He's a wonderful songwriter, remixer, because he was behind Amy Winehouse's Rehab. In that album. And that's kind of where he started. And then he got into Bruno Mars using for a few of his songs. And then recently he did Miley Cyrus's songs. And his stepfather, though, is the Foreigner guitarist Mick Jones. I don't know if you knew that, Tim, or not.
I didn't know that.
So, I mean, he did kind of grow up surrounded by music, I think, in that sense. But he's produced so many songs. Valerie, which is, a great song. And then there's like, he did some Christina Aguilera songs. And then recently he worked a lot with Miley Cyrus. And before that, Bruno Mars. So, but I just find it very interesting that his stepdad is Mick Jones.
Interesting.
Anyway, so Mark Ronson, it doesn't surprise me. Now, you do know this artist, but I don't know if you know this song. This is Ed Sheeran or Ed Sheeran if you're Elton John. That's how he said it. He said it was Ed Sheeran. Anyway, thinking out loud.
Yes, I do know this song. I used to play this on the DJ in that band I was just telling you about as a sort of a slow smooching song, or as the drummer says in my current band, belly rubbing music.
That gives me a visual I don't care for.
Yeah, I think it's something that somebody who's 60 plus years old would say. But he said it the other day and we're like, what did you say?
And you're like, that's like me, whatever. I was watching, so there was Carpool Karaoke, and it was the Elton John one. And he was talking about Ed Sheeran, and he called him Ed Sheeran. And I was like, he was like talking about him like he was someone fancy. And then he kept talking, and I was like, is he talking about Ed Sheeran? And then it dawned on me, Ed Sheeran.
Sheeran.
And I was like, that's the most Elton John thing I've ever heard. But anyway, there's no way Tim knows any of the words I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. See You Again by Wiz Khalifa and Charlie Puth.
No idea.
It's only going to get worse. Number 4 is Trap Queen by Fetty Wap.
That's just made up words. Next one.
You probably do know this one. Maroon 5, Sugar.
I know Maroon 5, but I don't know the song Sugar.
Okay, fair. This one was one they used in the music video. This was super popular for people who were like getting married because they use real. So apparently Maroon 5 did this thing where they showed up at people's weddings and played. And in the music video, that's their like there's scenes of that. How accurate it was and what was staged and what wasn't, I'm not 100% sure, but supposedly it wasn't staged.
It was all staged. Who wants random people turning up and playing music at your wedding?
But anyway, the song Sugar, it's kind of like a disco funk song, but that's what they were going for. So you probably do know this song, but I don't know if you know it. It is Walk the Moon, Shut Up and Dance With Me. Have you ever heard that?
No, I've never heard that song before.
Well, I gave you too much credit. Because it's always everywhere. All right, we'll leave it with number 7, 2015. And it's Blank Space by Taylor Swift.
I have not knowingly ever heard a Taylor Swift song.
I feel like you've unknowingly heard of Taylor's. You've heard the Shake It Off, Shake It Off.
No.
I feel like this whole episode is just me singing
this episode
songs.
was going fine until you left the mid-90s. When you let that, the mistake you made was leaving the mid-90s.
All right. Well, we'll do the last one that I torment Tim and ended at that. 2020. Number 1 was Blinding Lights by The Weeknd.
No. I know the song by The Weeknd, I Can't Feel My Face.
I can't feel my face when... You know that one?
I do know that song.
How do you know that song is the question.
Because I used to play that on the DJ in my last band.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Number 2 is Circles by Post Malone.
No, Post Malone sounds like something you buy from Home Depot.
Okay, I don't know what this is either, Tim. This is The Box by Roddy Ricch.
No idea.
We're going to end at 5, and that'll be the end of the episode, everybody. Don't Start Now by Dua Lipa.
I've heard of the name Dua Lipa. I wouldn't know what Dua Lipa looks like if he or she walked in this room.
She. All right. Number 5 is Rockstar by DaBaby. I can't say that seriously. I just feel stupid saying that.
No, I thought Rockstar. I thought it was going to be Nickelback. That's a great song.
I had PTSD from that song. That was the song they voted in my high school yearbook as the song for senior year, and I was not part of that committee. All right, Tim. So what did this episode teach you about yourself and your music knowledge?
What this episode taught me is that some of the 60s US music, I don't quite have the knowledge that I would like. You get into the 80s, the golden decade, everything was fine and dandy. You got into the mid-90s, and I started to switch off. You got into 2000s, and it was just random reasons why I would know certain songs. And then you got into 2015, and who knows what's going on with that.
It all went downhill. All right. Well, what do you want to leave the people with?
Well, everybody, I would like you to listen to great music from the 80s this week because it is the golden decade. And then be kind to everyone you meet by also telling them to listen to great music from the 80s.
I agree with that. Bye.
Bye-bye.